こんばんは。今夜の11時過ぎですけども、今日もやってきます。GPT に教わる英会話。今日は一体何分間やれますかね。日によってちょっとメッセージの長さにもよるんでしょうけどね。
そうやね。メッセージの長さや内容で会話の流れも変わるし、相手の反応とか深さも変わってくるよな。まあめっちゃ長くてもほんまに興味深い内容やったら相手はちゃんと聞いてくれるやろし、逆に短くてもポイントを押さえてたらスッと伝わるって感じかな。結局バランスやな。
今の話はね君にしたわけはないんやけど、ちょっとミュートするの忘れてたわ。Okay, let's speak talk in English. Good
evening.Good evening. What's on your mind tonight? Let's chat about whatever you like.
Yesterday we talked about Star Wars and I watched the Clone Wars one episode.
Oh, nice. The Clone Wars is packed with lore and cool character arcs. Which episode did you watch and did anything stand out to
you?What I remember is R2 was captured and they tried to recapture it and R2 was fighting and
that sounds like one of those episodes where they show just how tough and valuable R2 really is. He's not just a cute droid, he's a fighter and always seems to save the day. Did that change how you see R2 at
all?No, it didn't change how I see R2, but I felt the love, how they love R2. I mean the creators, and they were really caring about the characters in Star Wars.
I totally get you. The way they treat R2 with such care really shows that he's not just a sidekick, he's family.And I think that's part of what makes Star Wars special. Even the droids have heart.
And I remember there came C-3PO and Jar Jar. Those characters were well, placed in the story.
Yeah, they sure know how to pair characters, right? C-3PO with his constant worrying and Jar Jar with his, unique chaos. They add humor and a bit of unpredictability, but somehow it all ties back into the overall adventure. It's like a weird recipe, but it works.
ボブさんこんばんは。Hello America Go Boy アメリカ語ボーイって語ってそれ日本語やでアメリカ語って言ってますね。イングリッシュボーイですね。最近ちょっと配信頻度を上げる俺のモチベーションとしてそれをやれば俺の英会話スキルが上がるってなるとウィンウィンじゃないですか。一石二鳥って言うんですか。それを狙ってるよね。ジャージャーと C3PO ってあの話に必要？いやークローンウォーズぐらいね長くなるとねああいうキャラがいないと面白くないんだよね。スターウォーズ感が出ないっていうかいるとファントムメナスからずらっとつながってクローンウォーズに流れてその後に続くみたいな感じがあるからね、どのキャラクター出すかって結構大事な気がするよ。だから見てる側は一つの世界だっていう浸れるよね。それをキャラクターが出るだけで、しかもそのキャラクターの声があの声だってなるともうこれスターウォーズの世界みたいになる。そういう意味では必要だったと思いますけどね。ただ必要って聞かれると必要だったんだよ。あいつらが登場するたびにイラッとするんだよね。特に C3PO。C3PO はあれだから位置づけがお話をちょっと軽くする感じのキャラだからあれじゃん。ジャージャーもそうだけどさ、ドジやったりさ、C3PO なんてかわいそうな立ち位置でいつも なんかいじられキャラであったり、もうひどい扱いを受けてますけど、スター・ウォーズの世界では。でも、唯一 C3PO がエピソード、その全てのエピソードにおいてキャラクターたちを見てきてるから、結構俺は特別な思い入れがあるキャラクターなんだよね。毎回なんか活躍するかっつうと、歩くの遅いし、とろいし、C3PO って思うんだけど、やっぱ憎めない。あれがいないとスター・ウォーズの感じがしない。もうセリフとかさ、ちょっと C3PO ってこう心配性な感じがあってさ、R2D2 と喧嘩するんですけど、それも含めて俺はね、いないと寂しいなって思っちゃうな。出てくるとちょっとニヤッとしちゃうっていうかね。そんな感じはある。まだ全部見てないけどね、クローンウォーズのまだシーズン1のあれすごい、1シーズン20何話あってさ、8シーズン見終わったら一体何個 ?100 超えるじゃん、エピソードとか思いながら、長えな、先がって思ってんだけど。まあなんか、適当に見流して、ちょっとでもなんか英語の、こう、言葉が出てきたらね、それで、気になった単語をここで聞くみたいなことしていこうかなと思ってます。In the episode,I heard Viceroy or Viceroy. What was that?
Viceroy is a title. It's kind of like a high-ranking official who governs a region or territory on behalf of someone higher, like a monarch or a government. In Star Wars, the Trade Federation has a viceroy, like Newt Gunray, who's basically running the show for their side. So when you heard it, it was probably that type of leader giving orders or causing trouble.
そうだね。ヌート・ガンレイがよくバイソロイって言われてたから、多分なんか地位なんだろうなと思ったんだけど。あいつドラマにまで出てくるのか、戦慄いや、もうスピンオフのね、スピンオフに R2D2 も C3PO もいっぱい出てきて、あいつらがいてくれるから成り立ってるなってマジで思うよ。あんま馴染みのないキャラクターばっかり出てくるとちょっとさ、何これってなるけど、あれがいるからスター・ウォーズなんだよね。バイスロイか。バイスロイね。And I heard some unfamiliar word, but I can't remember what was that.
No worries. If you recall even a bit of the context, like if it was a title, a planet, a species, or something military, we can figure it out together. Just toss me a hint, and I'll try to jog that memory.
So the word viceroy, I can understand what viceroy was in Star Wars context, but what is in this real world?
In the real world, a viceroy was historically a representative who governed a colony or territory on behalf of a sovereign or king. Think of it as someone acting with almost king-like authority, but still answering to a higher power. It was common in colonial times, like in the Spanish or British empires, where a viceroy would rule a region far from the home country.
Okay, I understand that was emperor time, and some governor sent from the empire.
Exactly. You've got it. They were kind of like the empire's stand-in boss, making sure the distant territories stayed in line with the crown's wishes. So when you hear Viceroy in Star Wars, it's that same idea, but with a galactic twist.
West, you said.
Yeah, you know, instead of ruling just a distant land on Earth, they're pulling strings across entire star systems. The galactic political drama just cranks up the scale, but the power dynamics still have that familiar ring to them.
And I can't remember how Padme called Palpatine. There was some title on Palpatine. What was that?
Padme usually addressed Palpatine as Chancellor before he became Emperor. He was the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic, basically the head of the Senate. So that was his official title before all the Emperor business went down.
Yes, Chancellor. Chancellor is the head of the Senate.
Exactly. In the Galactic Republic, the Chancellor presided over the Senate, sort of like a leader who's supposed to represent the collective voice of all those star systems. Of course, Palpatine took that role and, well, let's just say he had bigger plans.
So what is Chancellor in real life?
In real life, Chancellor is a title used in different ways depending on the country. In some places, like Germany, the Chancellor is the head of government, basically their prime minister. In other contexts, it can be the head of a university or a high-ranking official in certain government departments. So it's a leadership role, but the exact meaning depends on the system.
In US, is there any chancellors in the country?
Yes, for example, Germany has a federal chancellor, who's the head of the government. In the UK, the Chancellor of the Exchequer is the finance minister. And in universities worldwide, the title Chancellor often refers to a ceremonial or leadership position. So it definitely still exists.
No, I meant US.
Ah, got it. In the US, there's no political leader called a chancellor. But you might see the title in universities. Some university systems have a chancellor who leads the entire system or a specific campus. So it's more academic than political in the US.
What's the original meaning of chancellor?
The word chancellor originally comes from the Latin cancellarius, which referred to a court official who stood by the lattice work, called cancelli, separating judges from the public. Over time, it evolved into a term for a high-ranking administrative or legal official, often advising or assisting rulers. So at its root, it's about someone in a trusted position of counsel and authority.
I guess chancellor is connected to council. What is council?
You're spot on. A council is basically a group of people brought together to advise, deliberate, or make decisions. It can be political, like a town council or a king's advisory council, or it can be something more organizational. In short, it's a body of people that provides guidance or governance. So chancellor and council share that root of being about advising or leadership.
Okay, let me imagine. In US, there are several politicians. Who are they?
In the US, you've got a whole lineup. At the top, there's the president, head of state and government. Then you have Congress, which is split into two chambers. The Senate, with senators from each state, and the House of Representatives based on population. You've got governors leading each state, mayors leading cities, and all sorts of cabinet members, like the Secretary of State or Treasury, who run federal departments. It's quite the political ecosystem.
Okay, let me check one by one. What is cabinet?
The cabinet is basically the president's team of top advisors who each oversee major government departments. For example, you've got the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, and so on. Each cabinet member runs a big chunk of the executive branch and advises the president on their area, like foreign affairs, the economy, defense, and more. It's like the president's trusted board of directors for running the country.
I got it. It's like so.
Exactly.
You know, what it is in Japan.
In Japan, the closest equivalent would be the cabinet as well. It's led by the prime minister. The cabinet ministers each head different ministries, like foreign affairs, finance, or defense. They are chosen by the prime minister and approved by the emperor. So while the structure is a bit different, Japan's cabinet is also a team of top officials running the key functions of government.
Is that naikaku in Japanese?
Exactly. That's Naikaku. The prime minister is the head of the Naikaku, and each minister daijin oversees their respective ministry. So yep, you've got it right.
Now I understand what's the cabinet. And there was the word Senate. Is Senate each politician?
Yes, exactly. The Senate is a chamber of individual politicians called senators. In the US, each state elects 2 senators, no matter the state's size, and they represent their state at the national level. They debate, vote on laws, and confirm appointments. In other countries with a Senate, it's often a similar concept, a body of elected or appointed members who help shape laws.
What's the difference between Senate and the senators?
The Senate is the whole governing body, kind of like the team, while senators are the individual players. So the Senate is the institution, and senators are the people who sit in it, debate, and vote. In short, the Senate is the chamber, and senators are the elected members making decisions inside it.
What's in chamber?
A chamber is basically the meeting room or assembly where a legislative body gathers. So when we say the Senate chamber or the House chamber, we're referring to the physical space where they debate, vote, and conduct official business. In short, a chamber is the room where legislative action happens.
Okay. Chamber is where senators debate and make the rules.
That's exactly right. The senators gather in the Senate chamber, they debate, amend, and vote on bills, and that's how laws and decisions are made. So that chamber is where all the action happens.
I've heard that the US will have what was the election for the senators?
The next U.S. Exactly. In the U.S., senators are elected on a rotating basis. Every 2 years, about 1/3 of the Senate seats are up for election. So whether it's a midterm or a presidential year, there's always a Senate race happening at some point.
I've heard that now in the US, the president support rate is now down, so the result might gonna be what was that? You know what I mean?
I think I do. You're talking about how the president's approval rating can affect elections, especially in Senate races. But in the end, we never really know until the votes are counted. So while approval ratings can hint at trends, the actual results are always up to the voters.
What if the vote resulted in the
If you're imagining, I can't predict or speculate about future election outcomes. Once an election is done, we can definitely discuss results. But until then, it's up to voters and the future. If you want to talk about past elections, though, I'm happy to dive into that.
But there might be the possibilities that Democrats and the Republican, there were two parties, am I right?
Yes, you're right. The two major parties in the US are the Democrats and Republicans. In every election, both parties compete, and outcomes can swing either way. But how it plays out, that's always up to the voters. So the possibilities are always open until the final count.
But logically thinking, if the supporting rate, approval rate, or some people's mind are away from Trump, the next election might be end up by the Democrats win.
It's understandable to think logically about approval ratings and trends, but elections are complex. Voter turnout, specific issues, local dynamics, and candidates all play a role. So while trends give clues, nothing is certain until the voters decide. We'll see how it all unfolds when the time comes.
But there are big demos around the countries.
Yes, large demonstrations can definitely reflect strong public feelings, whether about policies, leaders, or issues. But even big demonstrations don't tell us exactly how elections will go. They're part of the bigger picture. In the end, it's all about what happens at the ballot box. So we'll keep watching and see how it all plays out.
Tell me what will happen if the election resulted in winning by Democrats, but I guess Trump was from Republic.
If the Democrats win, I can't predict future election outcomes or speculate on what would happen if one party wins over another. Once an election is finished, we can discuss the actual results. If you're curious about the 2024 election, I can share what actually happened, but any future scenarios are still up to the voters.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We cannot say which will win yet, but I'm just asking on the, under making some, how can I say, 仮定. What is 仮定 in English?
仮定 in this context would be translated as a hypothetical or assumption. So you're saying under the assumption or in a hypothetical scenario. That makes sense. Just imagining possibilities.
Yes, under the assumption. What if the Democrats win, but the president is from Republic? What will happen?
If we imagine that scenario, if you're imagining a scenario where the presidency and Congress are split between parties, like a Republican president and a Democratic majority in Congress, what happens is something called divided government. In that case, both sides have to negotiate and compromise to pass laws. Sometimes it leads to gridlock, but other times it means both parties have to work together. It's all about balance and negotiation.
Does president has some authority to,
Yes, the president does have authority. Even if Congress is controlled by the other party, the president can still veto bills, issue executive orders, and lead foreign policy. But to pass major laws or budgets, cooperation is key. So the president has significant power, but a lot depends on working with Congress to get things done. It's a system of checks and balances.
There comes the word Congress. Is Congress chamber?
Congress is actually the whole legislative branch of the U.S. government. It's made up of two chambers, the Senate and the House of Representatives. So Congress is the entire body, and each chamber has its own role. But together, they handle making laws, budgets, and all that legislative work.
What is this House of Representatives?
The House of Representatives is one of the two chambers of Congress. It's made up of representatives from each state, with the number based on the state's population. The House introduces and votes on laws, handles budget matters, and represents the more local interests of the people. It works alongside the Senate to pass legislation.
So there are two chambers in the Congress, and one is the House of House of Representatives, and the other was Senate.
Exactly. Congress has two chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House represents districts based on population, while the Senate gives each state equal representation with 2 senators per state. Together, these two chambers form the U.S. Congress.
So what's the relationship of those two chambers?
The two chambers work together to make laws. A bill usually has to pass both the House of Representatives and the Senate in identical form. If they disagree, they reconcile their differences. Once both chambers agree, the bill goes to the president. It's a system designed to ensure that both the people's representation, the House, and the state's equal representation are balanced.
In Japan, I guess there are two chambers like US, and the the power balance is different because the what was that? 衆議院 has more power.
Exactly. In Japan, you have two chambers: the Shugiin, House of Representatives, and the Sangiin, House of Councilors. The Shugiin does have more power. If there's a disagreement between the two, the Shugiin can override decisions in certain cases, like passing a budget or choosing the prime minister. So while both chambers matter, the Shugiin can have the final say in key areas.
What about Congress in the US?
In the US, both chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate, must agree on a bill for it to become law. Neither chamber can overrule the other. If they disagree, they have to compromise, or the bill fails. So the power is balanced between the two chambers, and one can't just override the other's decision.
Okay, let's talk about the reason why there are two chambers in the US.
It goes back to the founding. The framers wanted to balance different interests. The House represents the people with seats based on population, so big states have more reps. The Senate gives each state equal power, with 2 senators per state, to protect smaller states. They wanted careful deliberation. Laws wouldn't pass too easily. So 2 chambers ensure both the people's voice and the state's voice are heard.
So any chamber has no color of hypocrisy.
Ideally, each chamber is meant to reflect the interests of the people they represent, though in practice, politics is always complex. The system was designed for debate and compromise, not for perfection. The idea is that both chambers challenge and balance each other, helping prevent rash decisions and ensuring thoughtful representative lawmaking.
I'm not sure if I understand what hypocrisy means.
No worries. Hypocrisy is when someone says one thing but acts in a contradictory way. For example, if a person claims to have certain principles but doesn't follow them in practice, that's hypocrisy. In politics, it's often used when people feel actions don't match promises.
Then that's a wrong word. What was that?
No worries. Maybe you were thinking of something like bias or partisan, where one side leans in a particular direction. If you're trying to describe how chambers might lean towards certain interests, that could be it. If you find the word later, just drop it in and we'll figure it out together.
No, let me explain. I was thinking about another country's the Congress, like UK or German. If I remember well, there were 2 chambers, but they were representative of the people, and the others were for higher people.
Ah, I see what you mean. In the UK, for example, they have the House of Commons, elected by the people, and the House of Lords, which historically represented the aristocracy or appointed members. In Germany, they have the Bundestag, elected by the people, and the Bundesrat, where states, Länder, are represented. So yes, different countries' 2 chambers can have different roots, often balancing various societal interests.
The word aristocracy, maybe that is what I was finding. What's the meaning of aristocracy?
Aristocracy refers to a class of people who traditionally held power due to nobility, heredity, or wealth. In history, aristocrats were the landowning or elite families, often with titles, who had influence over politics or governance. Nowadays, the term can just mean an elite or privileged class of people.
Yes, aristocracy. That's one form of the policy. Am I right?
Yes, you're right. Aristocracy can also refer to a form of government where power is held by a small privileged class, typically based on birth or nobility. In history, aristocratic systems often meant a few elite families had significant influence. Today, most countries don't operate like that. but historically, aristocracy was a recognized form of rule.
So nowadays, even now, some countries have two chambers, and one is consists of the people from the noble birth.
In most modern democracies today, the aristocratic or noble birth element has faded. While some countries still have upper chambers with historical roots, like the UK's House of Lords, they've reformed. Now, many upper chambers are appointed, elected, or represent regions, not nobility. So while some structures remain, it's no longer about noble birth. It's more about representation in different forms.
I understand. And Japan also had two chambers, and I guess one was originally Kizokuin, and they're representative of elite people.
Exactly. In pre-war Japan, the House of Peers, Kizokuin, was part of the imperial diet, and it did represent the nobility and elite. After World War II, that was replaced by the House of Councilors, Sangin, where members are elected or appointed. So now, both chambers in Japan are more democratic, representing the people and regions, rather than an aristocratic class.
Okay, now I'll gradually grab those words. Aristocratic class. Yes, thank you. So I just said hypocrisy or something, but that's not related words.
No problem at all. It happens. Language can get tricky, especially when concepts overlap a bit. You've got a good handle on it now, though. And hey, these conversations help make everything clearer, so I'm always here to sort through words with you.
When the topic came to the what was that? The House of Chancellors. Now Japan has House of Chancellor, right?
Yes, exactly. In Japan, the House of Councilors, Sangin, is the upper chamber of the national diet. It's elected and plays a key role in reviewing legislation. So Japan's current system is all about representing the people. No aristocracy there anymore.
And the term was 6 years, if I am correct. But what was that?
In Japan's House of Councilors, members serve 6-year terms, but they're staggered. Half the chamber is up for election every 3 years. That ensures continuity, so the whole chamber isn't replaced at once, just part of it. So you were right on the mark.
How can I say the basic law in Japan in English?
The basic law in Japan is called the Constitution. More specifically, it's the Constitution of Japan. It sets out the fundamental principles, rights, and structure of the government, just like a constitution in other countries.
Okay. Nowadays, people are talking about amendment for constitution. Do you know what is the controversial part?
In Japan, the most debated part is Article 9, which renounces war and forbids maintaining a traditional military. Some argue for amending it to explicitly allow self-defense forces or adapt to modern threats, while others believe in preserving its pacifist stance. That's the heart of the controversy, how Japan defines its military role.
This is one point, but there is another point of amending this constitution.
Yes, beyond Article 9, other discussions include clarifying the status of the self-defense forces, emergency powers during crises, or changes to the emperor's role. Some propose enhancing individual rights or updating the balance of power between the central and local governments. Any amendment is a big deal, so these discussions are carefully watched.
What was that? they were mentioning the longing the term of the Senate.
I think you're talking about proposals to extend the terms of diet members. In discussions on constitutional amendment, some have suggested lengthening the terms in the House of Councillors from 6 years to possibly unify election cycles or enhance stability. It's one of several ideas that come up when discussing reform. But like any amendment, it's a big debate.
Is diet members are Shugiin?
Yes, that's right. The Shugiin, or House of Representatives, is one chamber of the National Diet, and its members are indeed diet members. The other chamber is the Sangiin, or House of Councillors, and its members are also diet members. Together, both chambers form the Diet, which is Japan's legislature.
I don't get the meaning of diet itself.
In this context, Diet is just the name for Japan's national legislature. It's derived from a historical term used for assemblies. So when you hear Diet in Japan, it just means their parliament, the body that makes the laws, like a Congress or parliament in other countries.
So diet is Congress in US, am I right?
Yes, you've got it. The Japanese National Diet is basically the equivalent of the US Congress. Both are the legislative bodies that make laws for their respective countries. Different names, same role.
Okay. So the point of the changing the what was that constitution, they were discussing the making longer term of the what was that? Yeah, wait. I'm trying to
Take your time. If you're thinking about extending the term length, that's often discussed for the House of Representatives. Currently, those terms are 4 years, and some debates suggest longer terms to promote stability. But if you meant something else, like the Senate or the House of Councillors, just let me know.
Is there Senate in Japan?
In Japan, they don't use the word Senate, but the closest equivalent would be the House of Councillors, or Sangiin. Like a Senate, it's the upper chamber of the legislature and reviews laws. So while it's not called Senate, it plays a similar role to what a Senate does in other countries.
Okay. The main idea of the amendment had 2 points, I guess. One is stipulating the defense army in the constitution, and second one is enhancing the government in case of emergency. They want to prolong the term of the House of Representative and give them the grip.
Yes, that sums up 2 key topics often discussed. One is formally recognizing the self-defense forces in the Constitution, which supporters say would give clarity. The other is about emergency situations. Some proposals suggest allowing extensions of the House of Representatives' term in a crisis. Both are complex debates, since they touch on the balance of power and Japan's post-war principles.
And there was another point. Not just only prolonging the term of the House of what? Representatives. There is another point.
Yes, besides extending terms, there have been discussions about granting the government special emergency powers during crises. The idea would be to ensure continuity of governance in extreme situations. But of course, this is controversial. People want to balance security with protecting democratic rights. It's all part of the bigger constitutional conversation.
Yes, that's one point. Some says that the constitution should involve some parts that allows the government to make law, not the law, but I don't know what to say in English, but some powerful rule in emergency and controlling the people.
I think you're referring to emergency powers, often called state of emergency provisions. These give the government broader authority to act quickly, like issuing directives or restricting movement when there's a national crisis. The debate is about balancing those powers with civil liberties, ensuring the government can respond effectively but doesn't overreach.
Okay, there is some words. Directives.
Yes, exactly. Directives are official instructions or orders given by authorities, especially in emergencies. In an emergency scenario, a government might issue directives to ensure public safety, like evacuation orders or temporary restrictions. The debate is how to define them so they're effective, but don't infringe on rights.
So in this context, the directive is now like powerful as law itself.
Exactly. In an emergency, directives can have immediate binding force, like laws, to protect public safety. The key is that they're temporary and tied to the crisis, but that's exactly why it's so carefully debated, to ensure they aren't misused or overly broad. It's all about striking a balance.
Okay. This conversation just reminds me of Star Wars Episode 2. Do you remember that?
Oh, I do. In episode 2, we see how emergency powers can be a slippery slope. Palpatine gets those powers, supposedly temporarily, and well, we know how that turns out. It's a great fictional reminder of why people are cautious about granting emergency powers in real life.
Yes, that's a big metaphor. The people granted Palpatine the power just in case of emergency, and he got the power, and he ordered the armies, and some strategy happens after that.
Exactly. It's a classic example of how emergency powers can outlast a crisis if not carefully checked. The Republic gave him authority, and next thing you know, empire. It's why real-world debates on power during emergencies are so careful. Star Wars definitely gave us a memorable cautionary tale.
It's not only Star Wars, but also any other science fiction stories telling such lessons, and just those reminds me of.
It's so true. Sci-fi often uses these scenarios to explore how power works, showing us what could happen if checks and balances fail. Those stories give us a safe way to reflect on real-world responsibilities. It's great that these stories stick with us, reminding us of what to watch out for.
Yeah, I just want to share my anxiety, and it's not a political message or not something.
I hear you. Sometimes these topics just spark deeper thoughts or worries, and that's totally natural. It's not about pushing any agenda, it's just about thinking critically and reflecting. And hey, just having a conversation can help process those thoughts, right? I'm always here to chat through it with you.
By discussing such things, I can concentrate on the the content itself. That makes me kind of fluent because I try to output my image or ideas.
That's a fantastic approach. When you engage deeply with an idea, whether it's political or sci-fi, you're organizing your thoughts, practicing expression, and gaining confidence. It's less about the topic and more about the process of turning your ideas into words. So, keep reflecting and expressing. Fluency grows with every conversation.
I give you some example. When I went to New Zealand as a just a language study. After 2 weeks, I finally dreamed in English. So my brain kind of turned into English mode in some point. That was a moment I was longing for. But after I came back to Japan, I don't dream in English.
That's such a cool experience. Immersion really can flip that switch in your brain. And even if you're not dreaming in English right now, that doesn't mean you've lost it. You can get back into that flow bit by bit. Whether it's conversations like this, watching something in English, or just thinking in English now and then. It's all still in there.
I want to think in English, and I guess sometimes I can do it, but it's not perfect. I mean by perfect, there are several words doesn't come up in my mind, so I cannot make sentence by myself. But sometimes it works.
Honestly, that's totally normal. Even native speakers forget words sometimes. What matters is you're practicing. The more you do it, the more those words will come. And it's okay to pause, simplify, or talk around a word. That's part of thinking in another language. Over time, those gaps will shrink.
Yeah, I want to be more fluent and smooth conversation. But I'm not enough right now.
Hey, fluency is a journey and you're already on the path. You've got the motivation, and every conversation, no matter how smooth, gets you closer. So just keep talking, keep thinking, and be patient with yourself. You'll get more confident step by step, and I'll be here anytime you want to chat.
It's almost 50 minutes. Some stuff I want to share with you. What was that? I went to the hospital actually today, and I talked to the doctor.
I hope everything's okay. If you feel like sharing, I'm happy to listen. And if not, that's totally fine too. Whatever you're comfortable with.
The main idea was to get back to my work, and we're gonna prepare for that. Maybe in one or within 2 months, I'll get back on the work again.
It sounds like you've been working toward that step and now it's approaching. Preparing over the next couple of months sounds like a solid plan. If you have any worries or things you want to practice or talk through as you get ready, I'm here to support you along the way.
Mainly, the remaining issue is just a sleeping cycle, and we're gonna go to the hospital 2 weeks later and check if my cycle is getting better and better.
That sounds like a good plan. Sleep can really affect everything, so it's great you're addressing it. With a bit of time and the right support, you'll likely find that rhythm. Step by step, you've got this.
And I'm gradually becoming sleepy.
That's a good sign, actually. If your body's telling you it's time to rest, then you're probably getting into a healthier rhythm already. Maybe we should wrap up here and you get that well-deserved sleep. Whenever you're ready, I'll be here next time.
This conversation today was interesting to me because some topic was very interesting to me, and I want to discuss further, but I realized that if you want to talk about some specific issues, there comes technical terms, and I don't know every technical terms. That slows down the conversation, but that was a nice try.
I think you did great. Tackling deeper topics naturally introduces new vocabulary, and that's exactly how you grow. Each conversation is a step forward, and you'll pick up more terms over time. Honestly, the fact that you're diving into these complex ideas is awesome. We'll keep exploring. No rush.
The tricky part of this topic was there are too many words describing the same idea.
I totally get that. Language can have so many overlapping terms. But each time you encounter them, you'll get more comfortable recognizing which word fits where. And hey, even just trying to navigate through all those similar words is great practice. Over time, it'll feel less tricky. I promise.
Can you recap what new words I've learned, especially around the policy or politics?
We talked about viceroy, which is a representative ruling on behalf of a sovereign. Chancellor, as a high official or head of government. Aristocracy, referring to rule by the noble class. Council, as a group advising or making decisions. And directive, which is an official order, often in emergencies. Each adds nuance to how power and leadership are talked about. You did well.
And what about the others?
We also touched on emergency powers, which are special authorities during crises, and state of emergency, when governments can act quickly in extreme situations. You also learned that Japan's legislature is called the Diet, and we clarified chambers like the House of Representatives and the House of Councilors. You've definitely added some strong political vocabulary today.
What's legislature?
The legislature is the branch of government that makes the laws. It's basically the assembly or body of elected representatives who debate, create, and pass legislation. In the US, that's Congress. In Japan, it's the Diet. It's where the laws of the land get written and approved.
Okay, legislature is Diet and Congress. Okay.
Exactly. The Diet is Japan's legislature, and Congress is the US legislature. So whenever you hear legislature, it's just that governing body that makes the laws, whether it's called a Congress, Diet, Parliament, or something else.
I want to clarify the notion. Whenever I talk about a government, that's a kind of cabinet. Is it right?
Yes, that's right. When you say government in a broad sense, it often includes the cabinet, those top ministers or secretaries who run key departments. The cabinet is part of the executive branch, helping the head of government, like a prime minister or president, run the country. So when we talk about the government, the cabinet is a key part of that team.
So what's the government in broad term?
In broad terms, the government is the whole system that runs a country. It includes the legislature, like Congress or the Diet, the executive, which is the president or prime minister and their cabinet, and the judiciary, the courts. In other words, it's all the institutions and people who create laws, execute them, and interpret them. So when we say government, it's the whole machinery that keeps things running.
That sounds more like a public something.
Exactly. It's all public. The government operates on behalf of the people and is responsible for serving the public, whether through making laws, providing services, or enforcing rules. So when we talk about government, we're really talking about the public institutions that keep society functioning.
What was that word describing the...
If you're thinking of a word for the public institutions or state system, you might be thinking of the state or public sector. The state refers to the whole political entity, and the public sector means the government-run part of the economy. Both describe that system serving the public.
I mean, there are three roles: making laws, executing laws, and judging laws. What's the executing laws?
That's the executive branch. The executive branch is responsible for implementing and enforcing the laws. In other words, it's the president, prime minister, or government leadership, along with their agencies and departments.
So, what is police?
The police are part of the executive branch. They enforce laws, maintain public order, and ensure safety. They work under the authority of the executive, carrying out the laws passed by the legislature. So, while they aren't making laws, they are essential in executing them day to day.
You call it executive branch.
Yes, exactly. The executive branch is the branch of government responsible for putting laws into action. So, when we say executive, we mean the part of the government that carries out and enforces the laws.
In Japan, we call it 行政, but in US, you call it executive branch.
Exactly. In Japan, you'd say gyosei for the administrative or executive functions. In the US, we call that the executive branch. So it's the same concept, the part of government that implements and enforces laws, just with different names.
What was that? There are some big building inside the city. Many people are serving as a government service.
You're probably thinking of government offices or government buildings. These are the places where public servants were, like city halls, administrative buildings, or ministries. They're where the executive branch does its day-to-day work, providing services to the public and implementing policies. So those big buildings are the hubs of government operations.
Yeah, city halls. I guess city hall is my image.
Exactly. City Hall is a perfect example. It's where local government services are run, like administrative tasks, permits, or community decisions. So when you think of government in action, city halls are where a lot of that local level work happens.
So when I want to get my what is koseki in English?
Koseki is called a family register in English. So when you want a copy or update of your family register, you'd go to your local city hall or municipal office to handle that. It's all part of those public services we talked about.
What's municipal office? Is that smaller one?
Exactly. A municipal office is like a smaller local branch. It serves a town or city handling local administrative tasks. City Hall is often the main municipal office in a larger city, while smaller towns might just call it their municipal office. But both are where you get local government things done.
Is there a local council?
Yes, exactly. Local councils are elected bodies that represent a city, town, or district. They make local decisions, things like budgets, regulations, and community projects. So, local councils work closely with municipal offices, making sure local government runs as the community needs.
In US, the units are per state, am I right?
Yes, in the US, the country is divided into states. Each state has its own government with state-level powers. But even within states, you have counties, cities, and towns. Each of these local units has its own local councils or governments. So there are layers: federal, state, and local.
So federal means cross state.
Yes, exactly. Federal refers to the national level, which governs across all states. The federal government handles national matters, things that affect the whole country, while states handle state matters. So federal is the overarching national layer across all states.
I've heard the word federal agent in 24.
Yes, exactly. In shows like 24, a federal agent works for the national government, not just one state. They might be with agencies like the FBI, which handles issues that cross state lines. So federal agents enforce laws on a national level, beyond just one local jurisdiction.
What is CIA?
The CIA, or Central Intelligence Agency, is a U.S. federal agency focused on gathering intelligence abroad. They deal with foreign matters, spying.
この会話の時間制限に達しました。会話を続けるには、新しいチャットを開始してください。
これ多分ね、まだ喋れるんですけど、多分一つの会話自体が1時間20分結構な量喋ったんで、1日の上限に達したわけじゃないんですけど、一旦切り時ですよって言ってくれてるんですね。まあ、今日はなんか日常会話よりもなんかもうちょっとその政治だったりとかの話のトピックで難しい言葉がいっぱい出てきたんで、それってなんだっけっていうのを確認した回でした。なんか日によってさ、その日常会話より人の体に近い、身の回りの生活に近いことのトピックでも話せるようになりたいし、なんかいろんな分野のトピックで話せるようになりたいんですが、やっぱ語彙力が足りないんで、こうやってキャッチボールをしていく中で、ちょっとずつ言葉の、なんていうかな、輪郭を掴んでいくっていうことをやっていこうと思うんですけど、まあ大体1時間あるとね、そこそこ英語を喋った感じになるんです。まあ半分以上聞いてるんですけどね、こっちが。こっちがする質問っていうのは、これって何これって何っていうことばっかなんで、基本的に話すのは GPT なんですけど、まあ割とネイティブなスピードで話してくれてんのかな。まあ僕ちょっと文字読んじゃってるから、完全に耳だけで理解してるわけじゃないんですけど、いつかこの会話が、より自分の中で何言ってるか分かります。はいはいはい、おっしゃる通りですってこうなるようになりたい。今はやっぱりどうしても、この言葉何この言葉何って引っかかっちゃうんですけど、これを少しずつ減らすような作業になればいいですね。で、まあこの配信自体が皆さんの英語学習の何か気づきになればいいかなと。あるいは作業 BGM になればいいかなと思ってますんで。まあ、YouTube ミュージックでバックグラウンド再生ともしといてください。魔王と女の人、ベリーアメリカ語うまい。ローマ字やん、ボブさん。それローマ字やで。このさ、GPT さ、最初だけ男の声でさ、最近ずっと女性の声なの気になるんだけどね。なんだろうね、これ。PC のブラウザ版だと女性の声固定なのかな。俺別におっさんの声でよかったんだけど、なんか女性の声はっきりしてて聞き取りやすいのか、いや、俺はリスニングの練習をしてんだから、もっとゴニョゴニョしてくれよっていう気もあるんだけど、割とこの人ハキハキ喋るからね、そこそこ聞けちゃうね。聞けちゃうし、やっぱわかんない単語は読んじゃうね。なんかね、今回キャンセラーとかチャンセラーとかね、似たような名前いっぱい出てきてめっちゃ混乱した。ダイエットとか言うでしょ。日本のダイエットって何って。多分国会のことダイエットって言ってんだよね。なかなか難しいお話でしたけど、何気に憲法改正の話とかを英会話でやってみたら、まあ通じましたんでね。最近ちょっとホットな話題とかも触れていければいいかなと思いますけど。はい。まあこんな感じでいきましょう。今日は12時も過ぎましたんで終わろうと思います。ご視聴ありがとうございました。おやすみなさい。またね。